Okay, indulge me. Hand up. Want to have a good lunch? Hey. Sir? Indulge me. All right, yay! Cheers. Welcome back. Sit on down. Thanks for playing along. Good sports. All right, we have a presentation. Ruslan Havachuk, have a look. Have a look. I'm still working on your last name, but please come up for a presentation. I've known him for years, though. New era of augmented investment intelligence for alternatives. Just for alternatives. Come on up. Big round of applause. High energy. Oh, my good friend. All yours.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Gordon. Thank you very much, Hadi and the team for organizing this beautiful event. This is my, I guess, 5th event. I was at the first one, and during even the bear market, it is a pleasure to see you all here and not losing the faith and working for the better future. Let's talk about today augmented investment intelligence, what it is all about, why do we raise this topic, and how we can solve a bunch of problems we have. So have you wondered that actually 0.01%, this is the portion of information accessible to the average user that is using internet. So it highly correlates actually with the relevant information, with the accessibility to the information, and it correlates with the algorithms that actually companies, huge giants, are manipulating with and trying to sell us something instead of helping us. Another problem, another big number, is 65 million companies worldwide have an unmet financial need of 5.2 trillion every year. And this is only in developing countries. So we can actually triple that number if we take into consideration USA, EU, and China. We can triple the number of companies and triple the number of unmet financial need. And $7 trillion has been invested so far into alternatives. And this number is keep on growing and expected to reach about 13 trillion by 2025 due to even pessimistic scenarios, all this stagnation and recession and inflation and so on and so forth. So we can see over here why actually companies cannot see each other. Why? Because of the fragmented solutions, because of the siloed data, because of the inaccurate data. There is no united taxonomy. There are so many problems like close elite networks as well, so there is no access to the capital. We can see the number of deals being made, about 30,000 VC deals made in 2021. Meantime, we have about 65 million companies that need the financing. So you can see this huge gap. As a result, we have irrelevant communication all over, replication of tasks. We are still sending the same emails. We are doing the same tasks. We are screening a bunch of projects. We are spending so much money on analytical work that is actually repetitive. We calculated about $4 billion spent every year on average VC company, altogether on analytical work. So as a result, the high deal acquisition cost is obvious and slow liquidity or low liquidity. So we have started to identify this problem. Before, I used to found a couple companies. We were raising capital, investing capital. We founded and run successfully first tokenized closed-end fund in the world. We came to the point where we couldn't scale, getting a huge number of pitch decks, irrelevant communication. So we started challenging this problem, faced that problem, and started building the infrastructure. that will fuel the data and capital in the right direction. We came to the vision that the equality of investment opportunities that include network, expertise, and capital have to boost the human progress globally. How are we going to do that? So we built the infrastructure for the last 2 years. Then we need to scale and unlock that huge potential of the investors you've seen on the previous slide. It is about hundreds of millions of investors that don't have access to the deals. They don't have access to the investment tools. They're investing into crypto with a high risk. I've been investing into crypto since 2015. I know what I'm talking about. We've seen FTX and other problems. As well, there is a huge number of companies that cannot find the investors. So we need to scale and unlock that community, unlock that potential, so we can consolidate and develop the ecosystem where all private market participants will benefit. Due to the protocol, blockchain protocol we are building right now, it will be possible to unlock this potential, to verify a lot of information, and as well, it will be able to deliver the interoperability of different solutions, of different dApps, of different networks by value transferring. So you can see we are coming from fragmentation, from competition to co-opetition, uniting different events, hubs, service providers, so they all can benefit out of the system. But this means we are actually optimizing the deal acquisition cost, the effective source of truth, by means of collaboration. We are building collaborative intelligence in the system that every user can benefit. It is an extremely user-centric protocol that cares about people, and AI that cares for people and working for people. From collaborative intelligence, we can say about collaborative truth and collaborative responsibility, and this is really important on the private market. The core system we can see here is augmented investment intelligence. It consists of the main elements like relevant network, not to pitch 1,000, 2,000 investors irrelevant pitches. I used to have the use case when we were investing the capital. One of the companies approached me in the toilet, and it was really irrelevant pitch. It was not my focus, literally and not literally. Besides that, the networking, we can talk about augmented analytics. This is analytics that is relevant to the user who is using this particular service, whether investing or raising capital, and as well set of tools to manage the whole entire investment process. We have been in this situation. How many of you have raised funds or planning to raise the funds? Can you raise the hands, please? Pretty many. So I've raised the funds as well. I know that this is quite complicated. So there is some fun. We are starting all pretty confident, right? Then we are meeting investors, proving them. But there is a problem. Raising capital is not so easy because it is complicated with no funds, and it is not fun at all. I think many of you don't enjoy that problem, don't enjoy that raising capital is a fun. Too many tools that we are using and trying to manage, and as well, no replies from investors. So while the cash is running out because we all as startups have a huge burning rate, and we have to deal with all that. It is becoming like an all-time job, right? Instead of developing the products and providing the solutions for the better world. And here it comes, we need the miracle. Take Atlas. I wish it were the only one solution, but it is not yet the magic stick, it's not a magic ball to solve all our problems, but still we are on the way. So due to the scalable deal, global market networking, I guess it's good, yeah. Scalable deal making, we can reduce FOMOs, we can put the companies on the radar, we can define the future companies that will be will be a good investment opportunity. This changed the whole paradigm shift when the actually investors are approaching the companies, not the companies are approaching investors. And that has to do with the relevant networking when you're approaching relevant investors or relevant investors are approaching the investment opportunities or expertise on the market. And of course, we cannot do that without augmented insights and management tools that we have on the platform. One of the core things how it is happening is intelligent personal assistant Toshi. It is a gatekeeper between you and the system, between you and the protocol. He cares about you. He's providing you multiple insights. He's making you notifications. He's doing a lot of things instead of you, about like 45 repetitive tasks you used to do during the investment life cycle. Toshi replaces that. So, but this is the dog. That's why you need to feed it. That's why you need to feed with your feedbacks, with the communication, so the algorithm working better for the better future, changing the world. This is where we would like to change the world and change the industry that hasn't been changed together. But we can do it only when we can collaborate. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ruslan. That was great. So next we have a panel discussion, Webifying Enterprises, Challenges and Way Forward. The moderator is Vijaya Makarud. You can correct my pronunciation, I apologize. Senior Vice President and Global Head, Business Cripsy. And we'll have the other panelists come up. Vignesh Raja, Maran Meissner, Mohit Sethi, Amalia Grochal. So please, big round of applause as we welcome our panelists onto the stage. And Vijaya, please correct my pronunciation. Okay, thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everyone. I know it is just after lunch, after seeing some presentations, so we'll make it easy. We have heard a lot about Web3, crypto, some of the B2C stuffs. I think it's a little different panel now. We thought we'll bring a flavor with a very diverse panel, talk about Web3-fying enterprises. So we have, topic is different and also very diverse panel across the globe. As you have already heard the introduction, Amelia, CEO and founder of Mirai DAO, and from Siemens all the way fly down from Germany, Mehran, and Vignesh Raja. He represents, he's a director at HBAR Foundation and brings a lot of experience, particularly from a protocol perspective. And we have Mohit, who heads R&D and more R&D at Cripsy, and moreover, probably it's one of the very few companies who survived more than 7 years with 100+ large project experience. I want to drive some insights from him around enterprises. So maybe we'll start with first round with few insights, starting from maybe we'll get to know their Web3 initiatives and then we'll get to the challenges and other areas. Maybe to start with Amelia, I would like to understand some of your Web3 initiatives and talk about a bit, and then we'll get to the other topics.
So I'm mainly an investor in Web3, and I've been in the space for quite some time. I think something is wrong with the microphone. So once again, sorry. I'm mostly an investor in this space, but also I love DeFi architecture, so I can never stop myself from coming up with yet another solution because I want blockchain to be pretty much everywhere.
Thank you. Meron, maybe.
So my name is Maran Meissner. I'm here from Siemens. And yeah, as already said, came from Germany. And I looked into this crypto space the first time in 2008 when I discovered Bitcoin. And then afterwards, 2017, I started to mine Ethereum and also looked and started how to transition that technology like blockchain into enterprise and started the first use cases, the first developments. And yeah, maybe one fun fact is that I'm also besides a sneaker hunter. So yeah.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Vignesh, and I take care of the business interest for the HPA Foundation for Middle East and South Asia. So we are one of the largest ecosystem, crypto ecosystem fund in the world. It was set up in Cayman Islands in 2021. We are a fund of the Hedera network, layer 1 distributed ledger technology. And so far, we have deployed close to 300 million of capital of startups, corporate creators in the Web3 space.
Mohit?
Yeah, my name is Mohit from Cripsy. We actually started our journey on the blockchain space, crypto space, way back. Our focus was more on solving certain challenges from the enterprise side of it. How do we accelerate enterprise adoption? And at that point of time, we found it was right to use private permission blockchain because that was a need at that time. We created certain tools and a lot of integrations for them to onboard onto the blockchain space. After a few years, we realized there is a good adoption on public networks, and the network congestion fee, network charges have also come down, and it would be a good mix to use both the networks together. That's where we also started doing a lot of research on Hedera Hashgraph, and we created a lot of applications on Hedera and private blockchains together that helped us and the enterprises. Now we are on the similar lines, and we have so many public blockchain protocols, decentralized storage and systems. And we again see that there is a good amount of synergy and effort required in terms of helping enterprises to adopt and harness the power of all the decentralized technology. So that's what we do currently.
Thank you. So just to set the context around the topic, like we have been here together since probably day before yesterday night dinner. So we've been talking a lot about various use cases, what's going on, tokenomics, crypto. There are so many things, but there is a lot less we probably discussed around what's probably in the enterprise or even the large government banks, how the approach is taking and what are probably potential, how they see it towards adopting the Web3. From that perspective, Amelia, I would like to understand how you see it. You have been in this space for quite long, and you have seen, across. So how do you see some of the challenges from technology standpoint of view in terms of adopting Web3 at an enterprise level?
So for me, the biggest challenge is spreading awareness that regular blockchains, public blockchains, open source blockchains can be used as enterprise-grade blockchains, because we tend to advertise blockchains like Microsoft or Hyperledger and so on to be the only enterprise-grade blockchains. And in my point of view, if you deploy a private subnet, for example, on Cosmos SDK layer 0, you can have your data private within your entity. And then if there is any other entity on the same blockchain, you can choose to communicate certain particles of data that you want directly through the public beacon. So your data is private, but if you want to send it to other company that you co-work with, it's very fast and it's direct.
Great, thank you. And if I take the same clue from your experience perspective in Siemens particularly, with your Web3 initiative perspective, how do you see some of the adoption challenges from an overall ecosystem perspective?
Yeah, so I would say everything started a little bit with the enablement, so that we are understanding what the technology is about, the use cases in a corporate environment, then also getting the right people together to work on such a topic. As soon as we have something like that achieved, and we already achieved it several times, so we have already done several projects in the blockchain space. Most of the time we also have the situation with regulations, so we have to talk with our tax people, with the lawyers, with certain possibilities how to use the technology. And then this also sometimes generates then the situation that we cannot go further, for example. Right? And then you have already invested something and you cannot go further with this use case. So I would say these are some of the challenges. Another one is also kind of the understanding of the technologies itself. So for example, yesterday someone asked like how many people have BTC in the room. It was like 80%. How many did already do a transaction on a certain platform? It was like 50%. And then in a corporate environment, you can see that it's much lower, like 20, 30% have touched the space already. And then if you ask who has built something in it, then it gets very, very rare. And I would say that's one major topic we are working on. So I'm from IT, as an enabler, help creating those projects and bring them to life.
Yeah, before I move on to Vignesh, I'm also curious that as a business, do you see there are interesting use cases, but these roadblocks are really in the ecosystem is troubling? Is that how you see?
Yeah, I would say, for example, one interesting concept was shown a few minutes ago, like this community investment and how you can find someone who is willing to fund something and someone who is looking for some funds. And you somehow have also those situations in a corporate environment, right? But as soon as you're going to transition this, and Amalia already said it, into a public blockchain, what most people think about the blockchain is about, then you will also lose kind of the people, right? And then if you start and build everything with Hyperledger, then you maybe have the risk who is understanding the technology and so forth.
Yeah, great, thank you. Vignesh, how do you see from, as a HBAR Foundation, you might have probably granted many people who are into these initiatives. How do you see their challenges and what's probably are some of the roadblocks you see from their perspective?
We are primarily a public DLT. One of the issues we have been facing is transitioning from traditional private DLT. That's what in the region, they've been experimenting around Hyperledger, other Coda, and other private DLT. The focus is transitioning from a private ledger to a public ledger. So, we have to do a lot of education about the advantage of using a public DLT. And the second thing, other major issues that we see is the transition of using a wallet, Web3 wallet. So most of the use cases that we focus on, we have to differentiate, tell them about custodial and non-custodial wallets. So what we do is some of the use cases, we make sure that it's a very easy transition. Users from because normal user, a normal person, non-crypto person will not understand how to onboard, in an easy way. So we transition them using say for example, a custodial wallet. But we educate them to eventually become the owners of the key. That will happen through a non-custodial wallet. So we go through a journey. So working with your partners like yourself and the companies like Decaford and other partners, we help them, we work with them, and to educate, how do you onboard the users. So that is one of the major issues. But we also have, a way to basically a process to onboard the users to overcome this challenge.
Do you also see this, the mindset of always approaching to any new technology with enterprise architecture? Is also kind of?
I think it's changing right now. People are moving in. We have worked with, in fact, along with our local partners here, Decaford, along with DFC. We did a project called Tejori. It's DFC Codes. It's a very prominent institution in the region. We have launched a production-grade implementation of transfer of wills using a public blockchain. And that shows that the region is ready and ready to adopt the public DLT, ready to explore. So we see the transition now. The mindset is also changing.
Slowly changing. That's good to kind of hear from an approach perspective. Good. Thank you, Vignesh. So if I take the same clue to Mohit. So when you looked at so many people approaching for different projects, and how do you see the build phase of any people? Even I had met a lot of people in the room who are investing. So my first question was, what takes you the large capital? So there are a lot of people, they talked about, concept development, and build phase is the most tough phase. It takes a lot of, capital and so on. How do you see some of the challenges in that space?
Yeah, I feel there are different, I would say, companies, enterprises who are getting into blockchain Web3. And most of them are already having their standard operating procedure, the way they work and the model. And not everyone have the same problem. Now, for example, some people or some enterprise, they expect that the integration should be very seamless. Whatever technology it is, it should be API driven, open API standard. Then when we get to know that there is a strong cryptography and a lot of algorithms, then how to safeguard the key. So when you have to safeguard the key, then who is having control over the key? So in our traditional business and enterprise software model, it have evolved from last 100 years. We have good controls, good procedures, documentation. In blockchain space, we have multi-signature wallet, MPC wallets. There are different products, but how to make them much aware and help them ensure that they are able to use correct procedures in a correct way. Those are the challenges. And there are so many things, how to have everything available in one dashboard. Because today, if I am into this space, I know about different technologies. I will go for this protocol here, for a DID here, for an MPC wallet here. But for an enterprise to go and see in multiple places and then connect them may not be right. But they expect that if there is some platform where I can see all of them together and be able to configure or able to see what the benefit. And on the public blockchain side, the other aspect, which is a challenge, is predictability. For example, the transaction fee charges. So though with the proof of stake, it is coming down in most of the protocols, but it is not predictable. But the finance and account departments, they want some predictability. What is a business transaction cost? And it would be good for them that they pay for the service and not for the transaction fee. They want that type of flexibility. So if such things are made easier, it means these are certain challenges before even it gets into the real understanding of technology, before they enter into the real hardcore blockchain.
Great, thank you. This is great. But if I look at most of the projects I've been hearing right from Vignesh or other people, in fact, I met few of the people who invested in good amount of projects. So I also realized those who invested 3 years, 4 years back, how many of them are able to really scale and bring some good number of transactions into the platform. And so I think probably that's in one area where statistics are not very attractive. So far what I've learned, or even in survey or even in the discussions, in terms of scaling. So how do you see, Amelia, from your perspective, scaling challenges which are in front of the people, particularly around enterprises? Because one is learning curve, understanding, adopting. There are a lot of gaps. That's where we can see some early adopters are coming from startup side. Enterprises probably slowly catching up. But from a scaling perspective, because the one who started earlier, how do you see them kind of, some of the challenges in front of them?
So first of all, you just mentioned that you have seen many projects developing yet another great idea for 3 years, so it takes a long time, right? In my point of view, we don't really have to reinvent the wheel over and over when we're coming with new, more efficient, more scalable ideas. I do believe it's better to leverage as genuine infrastructure partnerships already existing tech and leverage each other's knowledge and rely on each other rather than reinventing the wheel. And in terms of scalability, if you look at proof-of-stake blockchains, most of them have infinite scalability. For example, near the shard, you can validate using only a Raspberry Pi. So the computing power, it's very little. I do believe there is a possibility of a private shard where you can run your data as an enterprise. So to deploy as such, the cost is very minimum. On subnets, on Cosmos SDK layer zeros, to deploy a private subnet, the only cost will be your computing power cost, because to have full privacy within your entity, you have to be the only validator of your subnet. Back then, probably a project or a company which will deploy it for you, they will only ask for around $100 to $200 for subnet deployment just to have a spam filter. And that's pretty much the only reason. So in terms of scalability and cost, it really depends on which technology you'll be looking at. And I do suggest looking into what's already been done and what's already on the market since a couple years, what has survived the bear market, because it was reliant on cryptocurrency, as in speaking of public blockchains. So I do believe if we leverage each other's technology, which is good, and bear market proof, then I do believe that's the way to go.
Great, thank you. But there are very few people like you who can guide on this space. So
that's not true.
So Mehran, so if I can take the same clue from an enterprise perspective, scaling is another, and we talked just over the lunch. So how do you see some of the challenges?
So I would start really from the trust in the technology perspective, because whatever we do and whatever we start, I would say it starts with trust in the technology. And if we look into the market right now, not naming anyone, I think everyone knows about it, what is happening. But this is not, I would say, so interesting for the enterprise and the corporation itself. It's more like understanding what is the benefit of certain technologies and then building on top of that. And then if we're gonna do activities in this regard, then it mainly comes to finding the right partners, which then it is possible to scale, who have the right people to drive certain things, and then also to business partners who are willing to use those platforms. So for example, we created a platform which is called Green, and on the platform you can track a CO2 footprint of a certain product, right? And there we have to find the partners who are willing to work with us on it. Or there is, for example, in self-sovereign identity, there are also certain projects started and platforms, and the more people and enterprises get into that, then the more it will be useful to invest and say, okay, we go forward, we build something on top. And also, if you look into the development platforms itself, so for example, we have a low-code, no-code platform which is called Mendix, but there are also low-code, no-code platforms coming in the blockchain space, right? Yeah. And then you're also becoming more independent of high-skilled developers who are anyway in certain projects of new tokens, NFTs, whatsoever, and you can scale by yourself as an enterprise. So I would say these are the things I would see.
Thank you, Simon. So I'll make little faster looking at the clock. So if I take this, I know from a public DLT perspective, may not be scaling, may not be major challenge, but from a use case perspective, Ignesh, you see scaling, any certain challenges in the pattern?
From what we see, Hedera, as you know, has been built ground up to scale. And that was the major issue that was there in blockchain, because it was private DLTs, and initially all the layer 1 DLTs that was there in the market, not scalable, right?
Yeah.
So that is when the CTO of the company, Dr. Lehman Bird, he came out with this algorithm called the Hashgraph algorithm. It's built to scale. So it can take up more to 10,000 TPS. It's highly fast. And it is actually run by the Global Council, which is actually we have companies like Google, IBM running our network. And we have good amount of production-based implementation running on scale on the Hedera network. So, I think Hedera solves the problem.
Good to hear. And if I take the same thing, Mohit, how do you see from a scaling perspective some of the key challenges?
Yeah, with our experience, I think scalability, we used to refer, means our focus goes to different blockchain protocols, private blockchains, public blockchains, semi. And there is a tremendous progress in terms of where we are, the throughput of the network, right? But coming again now, when we talk about Web3, it's not just the blockchain protocols, ledgers. Everything is decentralized. For example, our data would be on IPFS or ceramics of the world or many other decentralized storage. And then we will have analytics generated for the application. Again, they are decentralized apps. So now we have multiple decentralized applications. Previously, we used to only think about a decentralized ledger and a central application which have off-chain data and on-chain data. Web3 takes it to a different level where there are a lot of decentralized technology. Now, each one of them will have its own challenges. So I think the idea would be is to have something which takes the best out of them, and then it also advances when technology advances and this other backend decentralized apps or protocols advances. It would be a challenge, but there is definitely progress, and I feel there would be better days ahead.
Great, thank you. So we heard about both build phase and scaling challenges. What do you think probably you would advise to the whole audience that next year in this same 11th GBC, we'll see more enterprise talking about more in this kind of conference about what do you think is a way forward you suggest?
The way forward is actually collaboration of Web 2 cloud-based data and mirroring onto Web 3 blockchains. Because we cannot really push the adoption too fast because that would result in a mess and loss of data and so on. So if we mirror Web 2 cloud data onto blockchain, the upside will be proven very fast, because if anything happens within your enterprise network, malware comes into your network, blockchain will save you from the data alteration. You might not be primarily able to stop the attack, depends. But whatever happens, you will be able to read this data from the blockchain later. Because the beauty of blockchain is that you can never alter the data. You can never alter the history. So you'll be able to much more easier reverse engineer what happened when the malware entered your network. Later on, you can use blockchain in the same case for AI implementation, which you can teach. For example, you had a single attack of a malware, and then later you reverse engineer it for the history, which was on blockchain, and then you teach your AI what exactly happened, and on which step, on each step of happening, the AI will check if this happening that was before, it's happening again. So you'll be able to stop malware planted into your network from working, because first step will be read your data, second step will be copy your data, third step will be delete your data. If you can stop the malware on a point 1, you can save all of your network, all of your data, pretty much everything. So I do believe the adoption shall go step by step, and in this way, it will prove to pretty much everybody the upsides of use of blockchain, either private or public. I don't even argue with that right now.
Great, thank you. I'll probably fast track this, looking at the clock again. So maybe at 30 seconds, what is your suggestions to way forward?
Yeah, so my suggestion is that, and I would say we already see this in our cooperation. So recently we started a project which is called NFT with Purpose. So we released our own NFT. It's kind of a collection, and we are using it to build kind of a community who together with us builds kind of those Web3 applications. Because I already said that it's about partners, it's about the trust in the technology and so forth. And I would say the huge goal there is also to reach this industrial metaverse and having underlying functionalities out of Web3. And therefore, we have to educate our people. We have to create highlight projects, do certain proof of concepts of the technology itself. And then with that, I would say more and more enterprises will keep up. And whoever is following the space, I think there was this .swoosh announced from Nike. There was Adidas releasing something. Airbus yesterday, they announced that they have a helicopter NFT for a certain race, so you can check it on OpenSea. So more and more enterprises entering the market, and I'm really looking forward. what is happening here next
Yeah,
year. Yeah.
great. Thank you. So I'll take same thing to Vignesh. Yeah. In terms of what do you suggest is a way forward in terms of driving faster adoption?
I think the first important thing is whether do you need blockchain or not, and do you need metaverse or not. So I see a lot of enterprise come to us as like, we want metaverse. Doesn't make sense. So you need to have the business case. What is that you're trying to achieve? Second, once you identify the business case, there's a need for the blockchain, then you go for how you onboard the current users. It should be transition very slow, right? So the Web 2 to Web 3 to transition, it starts with how you onboard them through an easy way of logging in, through a normal wallet and identity and stuff. So yeah, the transition, the way you architect the solution is important.
Great,
That's how you're going to drive it.
Thank you, Vignesh. And Mohit, what do you think will probably drive the faster adoptions in terms of Web3?
Yeah, I think there is a strong need for us to have an abstraction layer or something, and an integrated environment where at least for the enterprises, they are able to see all the things related to Web3, not just blockchain. So for example, the first thing is how do an enterprise use the same identity and authorization they have? Because that's a typical barrier, because when we are in an enterprise or any company, we are supposed to use same username and password across all the applications. So same thing comes there. Now whether it makes sense or not, but there have to be a way. Then which protocol, which storage, so there is a big infrastructure layer. So how do we have a service which takes care of all this, and the enterprise just thinks about what is a business case, what is a business problem they are solving, and if the focus could be just there, instead of learning all the 9 yards of infrastructure, API, identity, and be able to use them in an less time, means less learning curve, I think that would be really, really helpful. And the other thing is, even the business cases are evolving, and how do we have a solution which can make us iterative, so that we are able to make changes to a deployment which is done. If those things can be handled, I think it will accelerate the adoption.
Great. Thank you so much for all the views. I'm not sure with 2 seconds left, we have any space for question and answer. So we are on dot. So thank you once again for making this and giving your views.
Big round of applause, please. And maybe we can do a group photo. Would you like to do? Well timed. All right, very interesting. Now we have our second to last panel discussion, Web3 platforms, how a sustainable platform can be built from Web3. And moderating our panel, we have Gaurav Dubey, founder and CEO TDeFi. Please, big round of applause. And I'll call up the other panelists. Saker Erakat from Crypto Oasis, Paulo Guida, Blockchain Valley Ventures, Kimberly Adams, Bridge Network, and Robert Bryan, Karate Combat. I hear that's good. Good to see you. Pleasure. Hi, pleasure. Where's you are? And by the way, for anyone who's interested, soccer means falcon. Yes? For anyone who's interested, soccer means falcon, which is fantastic. All right, it's all yours.
Yeah, and having Abu Dhabi Financial Week, FinTech Week, Abu Dhabi Finance Week, coining the term Falcon economy just makes Saker a more important person. Hey guys, Gaurav, I think this has become my permanent voice now in events. So I run TDeFi. It's a crypto incubator and consulting company since the last 2.5 years. And I'm really proud to have our portfolio and friends and associates here, a bunch of them. And then we'll move on to introductions quickly before we get into the entertainment part of this conference. I was telling to somebody here, I don't promise a lot of information in this panel, but definitely a bit of entertainment. So please.
Ladies first.
Ladies first? Okay.
Kimberly Adams, co-founder of Bridge Network. We're an interoperability solution, and we're building out one of the first non-custodial banking infrastructure whereby your MetaMask wallet becomes your bank. And our goal is to bring Web3 to every person in the world.
Kimberly is also commonly known as the billion-dollar baby. You heard it here first.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me. Paolo Guida from Blockchain Valley Ventures, Swiss-based VC. I've done several things in my life, consulting, private equity, investment banking, founder as well, and now investor. So looking forward to be contributing to this panel.
Welcome.
Super. My name is Slikat Erikat. I am very happy to be here with you talking about something that I believe firmly in. It's the blockchain ecosystem of the UAE, which we endearingly call the crypto oasis. The crypto oasis is what I believe going to be the most significant blockchain ecosystem in the world. Today, we can already say that we are the fastest growing ecosystem in the world with 1,500 companies since inception last year.
My name is Robert Bryan. I'm with Karate Combat. I think we bring a unique perspective to the Web3 space because we're taking a business that's already successful traditionally, and we're applying some of the most basic Web3 tools to our business. And we think it will allow us to grow much more quickly. It will help us acquire new customers. We think it will create a very sustainable platform for our company.
It's told in the beginning of public speaking lessons, know your audience, right? So I did made a statement. I would want to know collected from the audience. How many of you are in here for entertainment, a bit of Web3 entertainment?
I'm definitely here for the entertainment.
How many of you are here for hardcore, sincere conversation on Web3 building?
Also me.
Like 4 people. Okay, cool.
So we keep it fun.
Like we'll keep it fun.
That's the message, yeah.
So we'll begin with ladies. That will make it more entertaining. What, you thought I won't put it up? So Kimberly is a TD5 portfolio company that had received a whole round of funding by FTX.
Why would you start like that? Why? Say crypto oasis, say TD5.
So Kimberly, let me get on my reporter shoes. We heard you were visiting them more often because Barbados is next doors to Bahamas. Give us your version of FTX house. FTX as your investor. What does it mean to you now? I also have to respect those.
You don't have to answer the question, by the way.
No. I'm also respecting the audience here for knowledge. So give us your.
So I would like to preface this by saying that Bridge Network was one of the only companies that have not blown up from the FTX shenanigans.
Woo!
We maintain.
That deserves a round of applause, guys.
At the start of the bear market, we had to make some hard decisions. We were able to maintain close to 80% of our treasury. We took proper measures. We put all of our stuff in multi-sigs. We didn't have anything on FTX, so we weren't impacted at all. Nice. Yes, FTX was our seed investor. I hopped on a flight from Barbados to Bahamas and decided that they had to be part of our round because I really liked the company at the time. And it was more so about the culture. Like, when I went to the office and you walked in, you felt like you were entering the Matrix. Like, everything was just moving so fast at the point where they just allowed me in. They thought I was an employee. I was like, I have a meeting. Can I have somewhere private? And they were like, yeah, there's a conference room there. Go ahead, go sit down. People thought I worked at FTX. There was no, like, security or anything.
That's so surprising.
Well, now it makes a lot more sense.
I just saw two people running out of the door, probably shouting outside, "There's FTX story inside." Okay.
Yeah, but it was interesting. Look, I think the people that were working at FTX, they were committed to Sam's vision. I have a lot of friends that were working there, and they're incredible developers, analysts, etc. And I got to spend some time with these guys, and a lot of that culture of working very swiftly was translated into how we run things at Bridge Network. But in doing so, you have to make sure you go line by line. That's still something that we maintain. But yeah, it's a bit chaotic at the FTX HQ.
Apart from, jokes apart, the question around sustainability of companies, of startups in Web3, I'm sure has a big influence from the whole FTX debacle, right? So it's always better to pick it from the point where it was left by the rest of the world. And hence I'm trying to pick it from the same point. What is your version of sustainability of a startup? Like how do you think the upcoming startups should be structured? Because you're in a startup phase, and then I'll put the question in the respective life cycle term. Learning from the whole story.
Actually, I spoke with a lot of our investors during this time, including Sakar, and one of the common advice that I get all the time is startups don't fail when they run out of money. They fail when the founders and the builders become tired and exhausted. So maintaining that energy throughout that building process, I find is the most important thing. Focusing on mental health, focusing on your own physical health, all of that stuff is important. So I would say it's maintain energy and keeping your head above water during the hard times.
That's, I don't know how relevant it is, but randomly, when I arrived to my home in Dubai this week, there was a new pillow on my bed. I don't know who did it. And it says, don't stop when you get tired. Take rest and start. Right? So exactly to complement your point, I think founders in these kind of situations, they decide to stop, eject. But instead, I think they should rest a bit and restart building, right? What would you suggest from your version and experience?
Well, I have to say I've been a founder myself, successfully once and failed once. So my experience has been, yes, you need to be persistent. You need to be, how can I say, really believing in what you're doing. So the passion of the founder is the lifeblood of the startup. That said, even the founder at a certain point has to not to become a killer of itself and of the team, and has to know when is the time to stop. If something doesn't have leg, doesn't have leg. So in terms of sustainability, I think it goes down always to the same basic things that we've seen in Web 2 and that we've seen previously in other businesses. There must be a client, there must be a user, there must be a use case, there must be fun, but it has to be sustainable. So with respect to that, I think seen from an investor perspective has to make sense. If it doesn't make sense, then probably is not going to be funded in the future.
It's funny to observe how honest the crowd was. While we were discussing entertainment, we had everyone's attention. And within 5 minutes, everyone's back to their phones. So, okay, let's focus on the fun side. Sakar, your experience coming from a consulting background of IBM and then in Web3 for a long time, actually one of the few people who has lived the blockchain life before the crypto life. Yeah. What's your version? And try to be entertaining. You know the crowd.
So I'm sorry, it won't be entertaining. I think what's really important to note is that this entire world that is being created today, we're still at the early beginnings of it. Anyone that thinks that they've missed the boat, anyone that thinks that they should have come in early and it's too late for them to come in right now, they're simply not looking at this as an end-to-end life cycle. You know what? I'm going to expand on this even more. Don't even think of blockchain. See, blockchain is this fabled technology that is going to give us the world of transactions, and it's already happening. But just think about 15 years ago. If you needed to find a place 15 years ago, what would you do? You need to call someone, you need to get directions, you need to probably get a map. Today, you're on Google, you put in the address that you want to visit, and then suddenly you're there. What I'm trying to highlight by this is that this entire technology journey that we're on is still at its beginning. If we look at history, we've just been on this technology journey maybe for 50 years. So if this is a year, I would say we're in the first second of the first minute, of the first hour, of the first day, of the first month of this year that is called our technology journey. And therefore, it's important to look at the wider benefit that someone is trying to create. Any conversation that centers around technology is the wrong conversation to have. And that's like you said, I came from this consulting world to blockchain to then crypto. And obviously, the first thing that you do when you hear about blockchain is you buy a couple of Bitcoin. And then there was something called Ethereum that was on the map. And everyone was doubting that this would ever be something. And at the time, I thought I was super late in this game. Everyone here in this room is early. Everyone here in this room still has an opportunity. And every now and then, this counter gets reset. So what's important is to focus on, let's take a different look at this. What we're trying to do most of the time today is trying to explain the internet by an ordering service, by explaining Uber. Once that, you're all users of the internet. How many of you can explain to me how the internet works? Just by a show of hands. Gordon? 4, 5, 10 people in the room, but we're all users of the internet. See, today we're trying to make the conversation about how does blockchain work? Is this layer 1 good? Is this layer 2 good? Is this, no. We need to shift the conversation to what's the business value that we can tap into? What's the friction points that we can lose? What are the business networks and the new business models that arise through this technology that is called blockchain, crypto, Web3, whatever you call it, right? They're intertwined. Just keep in mind that today, even our base understanding of computing is being shaken by something called quantum computing. It's not bits and bytes anymore. Suddenly, it's not zeros and ones. Suddenly, it's intertangled zeros and ones depending on when you check them. So focus on business value, I guess.
That's the most basic setup I think we should focus upon. But and I think it's not tough to agree to you, because everyone knows Ethereum is the biggest ecosystem in crypto. It's certainly not the best technology. And then every now and then we have seen a zillion technologies coming up, while Cardano still remains at the top, which is not even a product. But then adoption, I don't want to, I'm not cursing it. I'm just saying adoption still leads, coming to your second point, which is, where's the adoption? What's the business model? What is the value it's creating? Well, at least in the videos of the proponents of Cardano, without naming them, it does make value, right? Probably it will. So I don't think it's too tough to realize the fact, the 2 pointers that sound superficial on the face of it, from Sakhar's statement, but are truly real if you base your due diligence on that, and which is what we do, by the way. But I'll shift the focus towards what Robert has to say on that from his experience, because karate combat is a game.
So that's a common misconception. It's a good thing I'm up here. Karate combat is not a game. It's a real sports league.
Nice.
We're the largest striking league in the world right now. We're the second largest combat sport in the world after the UFC. So we actually own a league. We have 70 employees, over 100 production staff. We have 150 full-time fighters. So we essentially do everything that you would see in a boxing match, to oversimplify it. Coordinate the fighters, have the events, everything along those lines. I can kind of go through some of my experiences, sort of what makes different startups work. I'm a second-time founder. I think my experience was a little bit unique because I worked for 10 years in finance first. You work with all, relatively highly paid employees. Everything's set up for you. If you get promoted, there's a big hierarchy, and you work within a system. And that changed when I became a founder. And from my personal experience, so I'm a founder, so I'm going to assume you've got a founder with a good vision that's very passionate about what he's doing, so you don't have to worry about any of those things. And one thing I personally struggled with was scaling businesses, coming from a financial background. So it's one thing if you have a team of people working. It's another thing if you're trying to do something new with 50 or 100 people that might not have done that before. They have a lot of experience and they haven't done things in that way. So there's a few things that I tried to learn to help me get there. So one big thing actually was corporate culture. You can follow all the basic things, but it might actually work. And you have to be able to motivate people. And I went through the full swing. So when I started on the combat sports side, I wasn't a fighting expert. I was a fan. I didn't have the faintest idea about how to fight someone. But that being said, I got myself, to these jiu-jitsu classes after work with the rest of the team, and really formed that camaraderie with everyone. And then to the flip side, after I started doing that, maybe I became too nice and it got tough for people to listen. So I think striking the right balance of being a leader and being able to motivate the employees, I think, it's just not something you think about, and I think that's pretty important. The other thing that I personally struggled with, I think is pretty key is, as a founder, you always have everything in your mind. You have the strategy, this is what you're going to do. You hire the top level employees that you've interviewed, and you have a strong team there. I think a big thing is putting together, processes, not just, at the C-suite below that. You need to understand, your executives, how they're running the people below them, and how to put in repeatable processes to make sure, you don't go backwards, to make sure things continue. So pretty mundane things, but I think that's something that personally I had struggled with, that I've really had to learn. And I think it's really applicable to Web3. I mean, forgetting FTX, I mean, it's incredible that happened, but, I think when I see a lot of other projects, that's something that I think managers should, focus on, as boring as it is, because they already have the big vision, and it actually is, a learned skill that I think is incredibly important for founders.
So as much as crypto is like every other business, and the core philosophies of building a business do apply, let's also acknowledge the fact that crypto is different from the traditional businesses in a lot of ways. For example, custody. You have to be disciplined with custody. One of the biggest reasons of businesses failing because of FTX is not truly because FTX had anything to do with their business. It's just because they were lazy and didn't follow the principles of custody, right? And it's funny that as an incubator, we do have, tailor-made advices and, spot-on advices, but at the same time, we do have programs, which means essential advices. And in the beginning of days, we had our advice on custody. We created our in-house solution to be passed on to our projects for custody. And guess what? Less than 1% project ever even responded to the invite email.
Seriously?
Are you surprised?
So a lot of, and when I'm making these statements in the last 14 days, yes, this is exactly what is happening. In the last 14 days, when we have started making these statements, the response is like they haven't even looked into those messages. They were not even important, right? And there are similar, crypto-specific business angles. I have a few, but I would want to stop at custody. And I have another one that I'll probably take it towards the end. But do you have very specific crypto angles that should be a part of, crypto startups to follow as a discipline?
I would say it has a lot to do with the Web 2 principles and just doing everything by the books, because it will come back to bite you at some point. I remember I spoke to a Web3 founder, and their massive project, they said their biggest regret was not structuring everything when they first started, not having all the employee contracts in one environment, not doing multi-sig, all of this stuff. So I would say it's just like leveraging a lot of the Web 2 principles and structuring it and not being lazy. But yeah, not being lazy.
Yeah, any specific things?
Well, I think you shall start from the fact that we are human beings. We are all lazy, and we don't care about what the others are telling us to do. That's as simple as that. So we are used to do the things in the same old way, the way we have learned it. And so I'm not surprised by what happened. I mean, there was a reason.
But do you think crypto businesses have something specific to work upon, apart from all the basic principles, to be a sustainable venture?
Well, as a sustainable venture, I mean, first, I think I don't care if it is crypto or not crypto. That's point number one. Point number two, I think this is unfortunately an audience which keeps talking about itself. It's keep talking about Web3, and coins and so on. People outside of this economy do not care about us. That's as simple as that. It's 200 million users out of 8 billion people. So if we are not real in, how can I say, getting out and becoming useful to people, solving real life problems, it's not going to work. And that's so viability comes with usability, comes with usefulness, comes with being real to people and solving a problem. So if we're talking about Web3, I think something which has a very big potential is communities. So it's how you can basically, for example, use the power of technology, especially blockchain, to engage better. But we did, for example, a research on DAOs, see if DAOs work, if people that belong to so-called communities do care about participation and so on. The answer is no. They just don't care, they don't participate, they don't show up, they don't vote, they don't
I actually have an agreement and a slight disagreement. It's the same thing in every industry. I have Oscar sitting here somewhere. He invited me.
He left when he heard about FTX.
Okay, cool. so he invited me to Gulf Food. It's a DWTC exhibition. And it was all about food. Nobody was talking about AI there. Nobody was talking about the internet there, right? So it's a very industry-specific world that we live in. I think it's fair to talk about Web3 in a Web3 conference. It's fair to talk about Web3 in a Web3 audience. And your friends typically tend to be Web3 or in your industry. So I don't find that like too much of a problem. But one thing that where I'm falling in agreement to you is that when I was in the food conference, nobody was talking about feeding the chefs. What happens in Web3 is a lot of people are building solutions for Web3 problems, right? Which are created by Web3 and shouldn't have been there for a lot of reasons and in a lot of ways, which is my agreement to you. But I'll move on to Sakar if he has any industry-specific suggestions for Web3 startups to be sustainable.
So obviously, blockchain is a technology, right? It came from this world of Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the largest, most decentralized blockchain application. Blockchain is super technical, so much so that there are elements, and I'm happy to admit that, although I've been working for 7 years in this space, reading and reading and reading, there's some elements which I just call blockchain magic, right? And technologists are driving the conversation most of the time. I don't believe that's the right conversation to have, right? Yes, there are specific things like custody, like community, like which chain do I use, where do I deploy, how do I deploy? Personally, drawing from the experience of other technologies such as AI, such as cloud computing, such as IoT, I really don't believe this is the right conversation to be having. The right conversation to be having is, this guy has a problem, how can I solve it? Now, if Web3 is part of it, that's great. We invest exclusively in Web3 startups, so I'd love to hear that. TDFi, similarly, they incubate and advise Web3 startups. So don't get me wrong, this is a very important technology, this is a very important industry, but while we're sitting here, again, let's not talk about blockchain for a second. The internet, we're all users of the internet. Most of the people don't even know what HTTPS stands for, or HTTP, Hypertext Transfer Protocol, right? But why should they if I can just go online and order something? Do I need to understand that it's the Hypertext Transfer Protocol? Do I need to understand that, well, if it's a centralized server or a decentralized server, or if my data center is right now in Dubai or if it's in the US? I don't. What I need to understand is There's a particular problem that I have. I need to order groceries. There's something where I can go and order groceries, right? So while we are sitting here, and obviously we're all hyped up about Web3, looking at the panelists,
Really?
looking at most of you. Pardon?
Are we still?
Yeah, of course we're hyped up. I'm hyped up. I don't know about you guys. Yeah, and we're all here, being so excited about this. It's abundantly important to accept that probably this technology that we're dealing with today will change at the basis. Case in point, what just happened to Ethereum, right? Ethereum was this great decentralized application, and we just went ahead and we changed from proof of work to proof of stake, right? What's important is that today I can transfer value over the internet. That is unprecedented. That is revolutionary. I can send you $1 billion within a second. Let's be real, within 10 minutes, but it's fine, right? Yeah, you want? Yeah, I want to. Yeah. Okay, I see hands going up, right? That's the exciting part. The exciting part that we solved something called the double spend issue. Suddenly, when I send something from A to B, I can confirm that it came from A, it went to B, and it's not at A anymore, right? Now, smart founders, the billion-dollar babies of the room, have figured out how to make the user experience better using these basic principles. I firmly believe that if we compare the technology landscape we're in today, we are probably at the time where our phones were this big. Do you guys remember the phones that were this big, the mobile phones? Yeah? Do you remember or not? I see the timer, it's okay, right? So we're still at the place where the phones are this size. We're going to get to handheld devices, we're going to get to smaller handheld devices, we're going to get to touch screens, right? So,
oh, by the way, I'm not that old. My first phone was this big.
Yeah.
Can I add something there?
One important factor. The reason I asked you to look at the time is because the clock gave up on us. It was shut down, and then Hadi made sure he made everything turn around to be on time, and then made sure that I'm looking at it. So,
Actually, so I think a lot of this circular conversation is happening based on who we are glorifying in the space. Might be an issue.
You want?
Yep, test.
While they're testing Mike, I have a topic for...
No. Go off. Okay, yeah, good, perfect. Right, so as I was saying, it's like who we're glorifying in this space. If we're glorifying venture capitalists that are investing in highly complex systems where, they're talking about zero knowledge, privacy. I mean, all of these things are incredibly important, but when you put this in the front light, then this is what all the builders want to focus on because that's where the VC money is focused on. Versus if a builder comes up and say, hey, I'm building a easy-to-use application that will allow anyone to be able to receive payments across the globe and has a simple UX. That is not pretty enough. That is not like sexy enough. And so I think it's who we're glorifying.
Don't swear on stage.
On the top of it, this is exactly where, sorry, I'm killing my business. This is where advisory comes into play.
Yeah, now I can hear you. Your mic is off.
How many of these high-tech, investment flying products are surviving today, right? What we are looking at that eventually lived, which was not sexy when it was built. Facebook wasn't sexy. Amazon wasn't sexy. Didn't catch all the catchphrases of the time. Ethereum wasn't sexy. I know the first 3 investors of Ethereum. And it was like purely based on relationships. The father of Vitalik, unlike the friend of father of Vitalik. So on and so forth. Security guard, these kind of people. So what are you looking at now? Is yes, there's a big hype around all the so-called sexy things, but what eventually lives in a longer run is not exactly the same. So I think the real founders, the real builders still have the right motivation to do it. Now, I really don't believe in the founders who are there to build something sexy for investors, because they're not true builders. The philosophy is still being, when you bump into a problem that wouldn't be solved if you have solved it, if you wouldn't solve it, you have bumped into your business idea. That's the bottom line, right? And I would want to quickly pass it on to Robert with whatever time we have left. And Hadi is like constantly looking at me. I can feel the heat. So
Similar to echoing what you guys are saying.
I don't see you.
Yeah, I guess I got 30 seconds. But similar to what you guys are saying, rather than even just solving a problem, I think it's about product market fit. Any other business, if 1 million games are going to get funded, they care if people want to play the game. And I think that's the biggest problem with lack of sustainability. You have some game people don't care about, and the Web3 aspect is pushing the game. And then when there's not product market fit, it falls apart. So my idea for most people would be not even if you're solving problems, start with product market fit. Do you have something that would work with 100% without Web3? And then if you can supplement that, it makes sense. But it needs to be, you have to figure that equation first, before you go down the road of adding all the complexities to make it work.
Thank you so much. I think we just got 29 more minutes. So cool. I'm taking a sort of takeaway from a conference that I did yesterday, which was a governance, compliance, and regulation conference, and also today, which is a startup conference, bringing it together. I think governance, custody, this is all discipline. It's like being fit. You don't like waking up early in the morning. You don't like eating healthy. You don't like doing exercise, but you still have to do it. Similarly, governance and implementing the best practices is that discipline that will keep you alive in the worst of days. Thank you so much for the brilliant conversation we had with the brilliant people at the time.
Great job. Maybe we can do a group photo? Good job again. So just quick programming note, we're now coming up on our final panel. Good job. We're coming up on our final panel. After the panel, we're going to have some refreshments, but please stay because immediately after those short refreshments, we're going to be in here for some awards. And who knows, you could be the winner. So please hang out. And for our final panel, we have what the future of NFTs will look like. Our moderator is Mohammed Zildin, head of tokenomics, Namika Brands, I believe. Big round of applause. You'll introduce yourself. So keep the applause rolling. Shaban Shame from Everdreamsoft, Tomas Martunas, Zen Capital, Adrian Moisen, Wild Meta Earth, and Rasab Gupta from TDPI. So it's all yours. Pleasure. Well, hopefully down there. Okay. We need microphones and all that other good stuff.
Hello and thank you everyone for your patience. We're just waiting for some mics and then we'll get started. But in the meantime, I am Mohammed Azuddin. I'm the head of tokenomics at Animoca Brands. Quick show of hands, how many people have heard of us? How many people have heard of Animoca Brands? Excellent, okay, perfect. One other thing, Shaban hasn't been able to join us, so we're joined, they've put it up there anyway, by Antoine, who's the CTO and co-founder of Awake. Thank you. Testing, there we go. So I guess we'll do a quick round of introductions. So I'll hand over to my fellow panelists one at a time, starting with Antoine.
Thanks, Mohamed. So, hi everyone, I'm Antoine. I'm the technical officer in Everdreamsoft for NFT certifications. So Everdreamsoft, we're a gaming company from 2010 in Switzerland. In 2015, we launched one of the first game with assets on the blockchain. It was a Bitcoin at that time. And now we have about $400 million market cap of assets. So I'm here to tell you a bit more on the technical side of having to manage this kind of digital assets.
Thomas, most of my life I'm investor. as an angel, early stage, probably more into 50 companies, DAOs, other funds, and also co-founded a few of the companies, one metaverse last year, and probably last but not least, I'm the father of 5 kids, which the most funny, interesting, and exciting projects.
Thank you. Adrian, I founded Wild Immersion after having made like 15 years in advertising. And I won the prize of the best advertising. I had 10 gold lions, and I quitted advertising to really protect Earth and wildlife. So now I'm launching the wildlife metaverse with gaming. It's called Wild Meta Earth.
Hello everyone, I'm Rishabh from TDFi. TDFi is a Web3 advisory and consulting working with startups and enterprises to build and help them build their Web3 economy. Good to be here, and thank you for being here at almost last hour of the day. It has been an amazing audience.
Excellent. So I guess we'll jump straight in. And the first question I'm going to pose to the panel is, what is an NFT and how have they changed the game? Well, I guess prior to jumping into that question, just to give context, NFTs have, or what we've seen, is that they've been a revolutionary change in the way we've been able to onboard more people into crypto. We saw the rise of fungible tokens, and now we're seeing the rise of NFTs as a value add to the ecosystem. So with that, I guess we'll start in reverse order this time. What is an NFT to you, and how has it changed the game?
I think I'll rather answer the second question first, because I'm assuming that the audience sitting in this room has been into this ecosystem and would be acquainted with what is an NFT. The way it changes a game is brings digital ownership. I was listening to Yatsu on the stage last month at GITEX in TD5 Pavilion, and I couldn't agree to him more when he said, when we are in the real world, what we care about is the ownership of our assets. But when we're talking about a virtual world, the same ownership applies, and that's what NFT brings to us, a digital ownership of the assets that we own there. And the way it changes a game is brings utility to not only JPEGs, and I'm sorry to everyone who believes that JPEGs are the only NFTs, but more utilities to bringing loyalty programs, and a lot of that we'll be talking in this conversation, but that's how I think it brings a lot of value.
For me, because I think everybody knows what is an NFT, but it's a vehicle. It's a vehicle where you can put a lot of things inside. As you say, you have a lot of different property, and it can also evolve during the time. Because when you are attached to an NFT, you can have like other property coming through time and allowing you to have different access inside the game, and to have also different rewards. For me, that's a vehicle.
Just complementing colleagues with some other thoughts. I think it's like a micro collection of the token, with the different attributes. Like previously tokens, they all the same, so therefore the only function that I was investing in back then called reverse ICOs back in 2017-18, for me seemed to be that trading is the only function of any token. With NFTs, it became much more. As you say yourself, you can add different attributes on it. It's micro collection, it's personalized, you either like it or you don't like it. So there are much more things to do. And with the personalization, which world is moving towards that direction, it comes all the things in gaming, loyalty programs, and you name it, So this is my thinking, how I see what is NFT.
Thanks, Thomas. Me, I'll say NFT is a revolution. Is a quite simple revolution, but if you think about it, they use the same technology than cryptocurrencies, but it's all about, it's a title of property, a digital title of property, but it's the first time you're able to have actually a title of property without having to refer to a centralized entity for it. This is really important because before, if you want to have a song on iTunes, etc., you have to go through Apple. And now you are able to build your own possessions in a digital space without having to rely to this kind of third parties. And this is extremely important in this sense. Quick question for the audience. Who owns at least one NFT here? Thank you. Okay. I'm really glad to see it's about 50%. It's a high percentage, so quality people around here. Thanks for being here.
If you don't own an NFT, come and see Antoine afterwards. He will change that for you. Sorry for putting you in it.
Could do.
Who amongst the audience owns an NFT that's not a JPEG? See, that's how the number changes, right? Putting the thoughts here. NFTs, as of now, are being connected to just images. There's so much more to it from the technology perspective, from the usability perspective, that it still has to be explored and educated. Yeah, going.
And I think that's a perfect segue into the next question. But I think just before we jump into that, we've heard multiple different variations of what an NFT is with a lot of overlaps. I think sometimes it helps to simplify it if we think of an NFT as a digital container. And within that digital container, we can put anything inside. And to your point, what we've seen is it's been mainly used for JPEGs. In some instances, it's been used for in-game assets. But then to the next question is, what businesses beside gaming and social or profile pictures will adopt the benefits from NFTs next? And what does that look like? I guess, yeah, go for it.
Thank you. That's a really good question, and it's a pleasure to be here to answer that. Apart from the in-game assets, that's actually a very good utility because, we all remember the days when the games were there, we were earning rewards, we were earning our achievements, but any one fine day, the founder can wake up and say, oh, you know what? I am in a hangover, let's delete all the assets, and it's gone. You don't even own it anymore. But NFTs brought utility to it, that all those in-game assets that we talk about, all our achievements and our rewards, are now on blockchain, and it's immutable. I own it. I don't care if you want to delete it, but I own it, right? That's just one. Let's talk about what the brands are talking about these days. The big brands are using NFTs as a loyalty program structure. One of our companies called Frequency is bringing that NFT structure in an artist platform, right, to bring more engagement, to connect the fans. So, for example, a shoe company releases a pair of sneakers, and the limited edition sneakers are being sold at a higher price than the primary market in the secondary markets. For a simple reason, because now that's an NFT that I'm owning, and I can go and claim that I was the first one to buy this when the brand released it. So now it's creating more loyalty. So that's one of the use case of NFTs that I see.
I see exactly the same use case, and also that it can connect you to the real world. So for example, in Wild Meta Earth, what we're gonna do is to link your land NFT to a land in the real world, where you can supervise what is gonna be done in this world, especially to bring back nature, to reforest, or to bring animals. And I think that's the real property of NFT, is that you can add a lot of things on it, loyalty, property, but also link with real impact in the world. And that's what I believe it's a real revolution, because we can have impact from the digital world in the real world, and with a huge potential of like aggregating people, because as you say, with loyalty you create clubs, and like that people can get together, share, and after like make a DAO and vote of what they're gonna do with the revenue also with their NFT, because it brings you money.
Maybe a couple things, like generalizing the industries. And one, I think NFTs are suitable for anything what is created with the creators economy. So you name it. Is it music? Is it photography? Is it art? Is it like visual IP rights, which you need now to patent in hundreds of countries, protect like who was first and blah, blah. So I think that with NFT, you can overcome that. So like it's gonna be blending, it's already blending to the, music. Now we have the soccer games, fan token, by social. So there are like a lot of the creativity related things. And of course, the second huge part, I think all the loyalty programs with the different points, airlines, you name it, retailers. This is another thing where, it's a very simple. Now those points, sometimes it's useless, but for somebody else who believes it's not, so it allows you like if it would be NFT and transferable, it allows you to transfer, to tokenize, and I think it's going to be another big wave where back like 10 years ago, I have app development company, and I said like there will be no plastic cards eventually. Yeah, now we don't have almost none of them in our wallets. Like every single big loyalty program now has an app. And I'm pretty sure that eventually it's going to be the same with Web3 and NFTs.
I guess before we jump to Antoine, how many people actually still have business cards? And I ask that as a genuine question. Okay, I guess, yeah, over the years with Agora, I think the business cards are going down and down, so we are moving more into the digital age. Antoine, over to you.
I have a business card because I was in Singapore. You still need this in Asia. Yeah, NFTs basically for business utility, it's just the beginning right now. As I said before, it's a property title, a digital one, so anything linked to property can be a business case. I think a good one that is like booming right now is the ticketing business. So for concert events, for example, you are selling the tickets, so you can like easily see who actually bought the tickets. You can limit like buying numbers of tickets per account. And then after, you have the secondary market that automatically opens. So it allows to prevent the market from scalpers that buy all the tickets at the beginning and selling them for 5 times the price of eBay after. And actually, this is only the beginning, because after you can create some really cool stuff using this technology. Let's say you are a hardcore fan of a group and you attend all the concerts worldwide. You can actually prove easily with this technology that you attended all of the concerts. And we can imagine that the group can organize a private party for their most provable hardcore fans using this. And this is just an example of all the cool stuff you can do about this. And it's not limited to a single actor. They can do collabs with other artists. And when they release a new album as several artists, only people who attended one concert of each could be allowed to go to an event. That's the kind of use case that are really unlocked by these amazing technologies.
Absolutely. I mean, in the last few minutes, you've heard of multiple use cases for NFTs, from in-game assets to being impact-driven for the creator economy or as ticketing. One thing I think in a space that's missing is a reputation layer. We talk a lot about DAOs, and DAOs, it was a big buzzword maybe 12 to 18 months ago. We've seen the rise and fall of DAOs, and a big part of that was due to a lack of a reputation layer. What's super interesting is going back to an NFT as a digital container. We can actually store lots of different types of metadata and your on-chain interactions within that, which then leverage reputation, which I think is another amazing use case for that as well. With that in mind, and I know we've touched on this, we talk about digital ownership is important, but why should people care? Why should people care about their digital ownership?
Oh, why should people care about the ownership at all then? I mean, let's take an example, right? An artist creates a music and puts out the music, that whole piece gets a lot of popularity. But who is the one who is owning it? Who is the one who is earning on the top of it? Not the artist, for sure. I mean, they're the label houses, they are the agencies that are the intermediary layers. But if that asset has an ownership of the creator, like he said, the creator economy, that's where I want to own digitally what I've created. And that's where I think, we want digital ownership because it belongs to us. It was created by us. So hence, that's where I think digital ownership is really important. We play hours and hours of games, and at the end of the day, we win something. But we want to own it. We want to claim it on our in our social groups, and tell that we won this, we have this, we put our efforts, we are good at it, and this is a proof of it. So that's a proof of your digital ownership, and that's where NFTs comes into the picture. It's not just creator economy; it's the fan economy, right? If I am a fan of a club or a soccer team, I want to own their NFT, and I want to claim it on my. This is what we do as humans. We want to show it to everyone that this is what we do, this is what we own, and hence there's when digital ownership comes into the picture.
I won't add anything.
Thank you.
I won't add anything about the ownership for your own. What I feel is a real revolution with the NFT is that you can co-own also, and you have linked with a smart contract with the blockchain. And so that's really, for me, Web3 is collaboration. Meaning, in a game, you can own your assets, okay, you can share them, you can rent them, okay, but you can also create new assets, give them to the game, and like that, they can rent it inside the game, and they can replicate it if you want or what. You just decide with a smart contract, and after you don't have anything to do. So you can really collaborate with other gamers, but even also with the company which is creating the game. And what I feel hyper important, you can collaborate with other developers that are doing other games. The goal of the metaverse at the end is to be all in the same metaverse and to have a lot of different activities. And that's through the NFT, that's through the smart contract, that's through the blockchain, that we can share it in an equal way. Because for the moment, we know that it's more about speculation as the beginning of internet. But now the wave of the crash is coming, and that's good, because like that, all the people who are here only for speculation are going to go out, and you will see the next things built by collaboration, because we need to collaborate now.
To add, I think traceability is important, and I'll give you maybe an example of like real world, like CG Trader for 3D models, or Shutterstock for the pictures. Like, you know, there is a clarity who created, how much, who needs to get, but there are like third-party platforms. There are, you know, a lot of copycats, and like nobody can trace it. And with an NFT and having a smart contract, you actually can do it. And then if somebody used it with the help of the AI, you can, you know who used it, how much used it, you know, who created. And I remember we supported one campaign after the invasion to Ukraine, and they were collecting art, and they faced the problem that like there are like viral meme arts, and they don't know who created it. And the problem that they tried to go to the creators, and they couldn't find it. So like how to use it, and the lawyer said, no, you cannot use it, even it went viral, and even it had a possibility, you know, to do some good, because you don't know who is the creator. So that is like, you know, funny story, and it happens. And with NFT, if that art would be as an NFT, it would never happen. You would know who is behind that.
Thank you. Already good example of why it's important. I'd say we now all have a lot of property in the digital space. Like, let's say, if you have a PlayStation, you have many games on the PS Store. If you have iTunes, well, no, nobody uses that anymore, it's streaming only, but you used to be able to buy songs or albums on your digital library. But what happens if, like, someone in your team on Call of Duty starts to insult some people? Your account probably will get locked, and basically you will lose the access to all the game you bought. But why? Because actually you didn't buy those games, you just bought a license to use them. And this is a huge subject, because sometimes this license costs like the same price as physical games, but actually you can sell back, you can lend them to your friends, you can give them to your child when you die. And it's stupid, but now we started to see people with huge iTunes libraries worth thousands of dollars, and after their death, their children had nothing. Like, I mean, I have a CD collection that I will inherit from my parents, and I'm really grateful from that. But in the era of digital technologies, all those things are lost. And actually, with NFTs and a transition to like actually owning your digital assets, this will come to a stop, and we'll be actually able to use the same mechanic that we have in the real world with digital assets. And this is extremely important, because right now, if you trust a centralized entity for your digital assets, basically you are buying some wind.
One more thing, taking an example from, you know, in this room itself, this is the 10th edition of Global Blockchain Congress by Agora Group. You know, they've done a fantastic job putting all of this together. Now imagine all of these audience here and all of us have got an NFT, of being in the 10th edition of GBC. And 5 years down the line, they host the 100th edition. Then we go there and we being the early advocates and early participants of and having that digital ownership of that asset, of that NFT and of our proof of attendance, we would have been on the, standing on the stage and saying, see, this is why NFTs are required. This gives us the ownership of our attendance in the 10th edition, standing in this 100th edition. So this is where the use of NFTs comes in, apart from the JPEGs.
I think that's super interesting. Hadi, please take a note. We want POAPs for the next edition, the 11th edition, please.
Yes.
What's super interesting is we talk about digital ownership, and one thing we haven't mentioned is data. Arguably, it's what our bigger asset is. I remember 2-3 years ago when Facebook brought out WhatsApp, there was a big, everyone wanted, I guess there was a big negativity towards it because we felt our data wasn't safe. How many people remember that? How many of us still use WhatsApp, yet we know our data isn't safe? Some of you are not being honest, but yes, I'll take that. And I think that's a big issue, because if I think to the point you were making earlier, it's I want ownership of my house, I want ownership of my car, I want ownership of my shoes. Because it's physical items, it makes sense that I have ownership of that. But when it comes to our digital assets or even our data, we have no ownership of that, or we don't understand the implications of not owning our digital assets and how these big corporations are actually monetizing our data and using that data against us. We won't go into Cambridge Analytica and things like that, but we've seen the impacts that's had on real life.
Yeah, it's true that AI and machine learning, it's a big buzzword nowadays. For me, the main utility I see for these buzzwords with the NFT ecosystem is that there's a lot of scam and lack of user trust at this moment. And actually, AI and machine learning can help detect common fraud patterns, copy mints, copyright infringements around NFTs. And that's really, really, really powerful tools that we have to rely to bring more trust in the ecosystem.
Look, AI, I think, is in general a threat for the whole, world population. So we need to be aware it's changing like industry by industry. And if we talk about creators, so with DALL-E, Midjourney, Scalability, Stability AI, it like what the last art competition was won by the painting who was drawn by AI. So, everyone suddenly becomes the creator with the help of AI, you know, the texts, the products, the copywriting, you know, it gets better and better every single day. So it is on one hand is a threat, on another hand it's opportunity for everyone. Like for me to create an NFT, I don't know how to start, from where to start. Now, you know, with the tools, if you Google, you probably can do something in an hour and can do amazing. Like I can put my fantasies, which can be visualized, which can be, you know, created music out of it. I just invested in one collection who actually, like, if you say the greeting, like happy birthday, they convert it to the art, to the like mandala based on AI. So like, you know, it starts evolving and adding value for the people who are creative.
I think AI is really important for gaming because it's going to take off all the boring stuff that we needed to do before. Especially for example, I made the marketing for Cross the Ages. We created a comic book that is not out for the moment. And now you have AI and you can say exactly what you want and give the colors. And so you still have the artistic touch, but you can create a full comic book in like 1 week, which is really interesting because, for example, I have a friend doing a full movie only with AI. So meaning that it's like it won't take off the artistic part because there is still the soul of the time and the feeling of humanity that we need this kind of music at this time, etc., because we already have all the kind of music. But AI can help to go really faster and also to create a permanent universe because metaverse is about permanency. So when you're out of the metaverse continue to grow, and that's why AI is so important inside the metaverse because it can like allow you to have different interaction even if there is no everybody.
You got 30 seconds.
So I'll pick up from Thomas. I agree and I don't agree at the same time. I agree that, you know, to start, to create an NFT, for the sake of creating an NFT, not keeping in mind the ownership, yes, this is a good, there are a lot of tools available. But there are two answers to your question specifically. If we take the first case where we create an NFT using an AI, unfortunately, the copyright laws as of now, even in the Web2 world, doesn't allow ownership or trademarks for anything that has been created by non-humans. There is an example of a beautiful picture of a monkey that was captured in 2011, and it was actually set up by the photographer, but the Court of Justice didn't allow. They said, you know, it's not human who clicked it, it was the non-human who clicked it, hence its ownership doesn't belong to you, and hence it is in public domains. But at the same time, there is a use case of AI and NFT. We are seeing, as we are evolving, the way the technology evolves, the way metaverses are evolving, smart learning NFTs being created, where every time an NFT interacts or engages with a resource, their capabilities increase, the metadata changes, and it becomes a better NFT, better form of NFT. So in that form, an AI and machine learning and NFT would be, and I see that as a use. In fact, there's a company called Althea AI that has done this for something called Alice. I mean, I'm not really good with remembering that, but they've sold that for $480,000 as an evolving NFT. It's called an Alice, with smart learning capabilities.
So I mean, NFTs are here to stay, and I think that's quite clear. And it's been really interesting in the past few weeks, especially with the FTX fallout as well, that events like this are still going on. Everyone is still focused on building, and that the future is bright for the space. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for being patient and listening to us. And
fantastic, really nice. When you folks gather for a photo?
Let's do it.
Thumbs up. Good job. Okay, big round of applause for everyone in the audience. Good job, good job, good job. So programming note, by order of Reem and Hadi, We're going to take 5 minutes for a coffee break, and there's quiche. I don't know if you're into quiche, but there's quiche. Go grab some quiche, go grab some coffee, and then come back in because we're going to have the awards for the top 3 projects as voted for by the prospective investors. So this is like, this is the death match Hunger Games section of the Agora Blockchain Congress. Right, Reem? And by the way, our co-organizers right there, another round of applause. I think I said that, but I'll say it again. So to repeat for anyone who wasn't listening, Reem, 5 minutes for coffee, then come back in here for the deathmatch section. Top 3 projects. Thank you.
All right, everyone. Thank you all for sticking around till the last minute of the second day of the 10th edition of the Global Blockchain Congress. We really appreciate your support. We really appreciate you being here. Before we announce the winners, I would just like our team, Agora team, who's delivered the event on the ground, to go up on the stage to say thank you to you. So please, Wissam, Farah, Layan, Makram, Yamin, Ubay, Jad, and Reem. So thank you guys again. These guys that work tirelessly behind the scene to make everything happen and to ensure that we deliver what we promise to our client or to our stakeholders all the time, consistently. So thank you guys. Okay, now, as far as the award is concerned, this is the third time that we do the award. It follows the exact same unscientific methods that we employed since the first edition. It is a very simple process. We ask the investors, after meeting with each project, please rate the project between 0 and 10 based on how likely you think the project will get funded. It's not about the best project, it's not about the best technology, it's not about the best team, it's how likely they think the project is going to get funded. And it is always, always very, very tight. So we want to thank all the projects for being part of this. We want to thank the investors as well for being part of this and for voting. So Jad will now do the announcements.
Hello, everyone, and thanks again for being here. I'll just get straight to it. In third place, Wild Meta Earth. Congratulations. In second place, we have 1GCX. And finally, our winners, Rifters. Okay, I'd just like to ask the winners to come up on stage to take a picture together. So if 1GCX and the rest can come. So with the awards distributed, that concludes our event. We'd like to thank everybody for coming and for making this special, as it always is. And hopefully we'll see you on the 11th. Thank you all.
Congratulations for the winners. I just want to thank you all for being here today with us. Today, your presence proved to the entire world that the crypto community proves that how resilient it is despite the market condition. Every single time we're astonished. We're so impressed with how positive and how engaging the community and the ecosystem proves to be. I thank you all, wishing you all the best, and see you all in March. March 6th and 7th, it's going to be our 11th edition. So see you all, and congratulations for the winners.